They offered me a $2.2 million budget for the film if I didn't act as the lead role. And I basically was like, I can't do that. So.
Adam, you once said that 99% of filmmakers will never make a second film. How do you feel about this now?
It's crazy how much things have changed and how fast things have changed. Technology's made things so much easier. And I talk about that a lot recently because it's like back in 2007, 2008, you couldn't even get depth of field. You couldn't even use lenses. And now it's so much easier to make a film. So as much as before, if you made one film, you're probably not going to make a second one. Now someone can make a first film now, have no success, and still make a second film. The first time I said that probably wasn't the case. Because they had to spend a lot of money. You don't have to anymore, as much as you did, I would say.
And when we talked to you about that before, you had only made one feature or no at that point?
I just made WALLY Got Wasted, so that was my first feature, yes. And now I made a full TV series, which is like 3 features. Bad Advice is like 3 features. It's like 4 hours, 4.5 hours worth of content. So 7 episodes. Each episode's about 30 to 40 minutes long. So I guess I didn't follow that rule of never making another one. But now I'm working on my second feature as well. Right now it's called Attachment Theory, but the name might change. It's just a lot easier to make films nowadays. So I do think probably the percentage of people that make a second film probably has gone up a lot, I would think.
Right, and I didn't mean to say that Bad Advice wasn't worthy of being sort of feature length.
No, I didn't take it that way.
Yeah, but what I'm wondering is, do you think people realize either how hard it is, they get like sort of jaded after a first feature, maybe they have more hopes for it, and they quit, or it's a money issue?
I think it's both. I think people have money issues with features. It does take money to do this stuff if you want to do it well. I mean, you can. And it is getting easier and easier with sound mixing, with color, with LUTs being easier and color correction, and just to make things look better has gotten a lot easier. But a lot of people make a first feature and they thought this was going to break them in, and it doesn't quite do that, and it discourages them. And I understand people, what am I doing in life? That's a huge question of why you're doing this and why you're making films, because you're just a filmmaker or because you have a desire to be famous or whatever that is, and filmmaking is becoming more niche-y, I feel like, than ever, because so many people want to be Instagram stars and TikTok stars and that kind of stuff. So it's definitely more of to meet someone that has watched a lot of films and study film is a lot more rare, I feel like, than it was 10 years ago. So that's what I think. When you hear statistics like kids are spending 6 hours on Instagram, they're not watching movies. I don't think someone who's spending that much time on TikTok or Instagram is not watching films that often. Sometimes people don't even watch any nowadays. Talk to me, I'm not a movie or TV person, but they spend 6 hours on Instagram or TikTok.
Right. Well, and it's very easy to get. It
sucks you in.
Yeah, it's built into the way it works. But was there ever a moment though that you thought you were making a second feature or a TV series, and there were moments of doubt where you just didn't want to go through this again? Not the fun of being on set and meeting all the actors and crew, but in terms of trying to get it distributed.
So I'm lucky. I work for a distribution company at this point, so I help filmmakers get on Tubi and Crackle and Shine TV and a few others. So I have a little bit of an in there. And so I've been doing that and trying to learn as much as possible to do that. Is it discouraging distribution? Absolutely. For many filmmakers, if you have an expectation, it's very hard. If you do it for the love, you won't be disappointed. But if you do it for a result, you can't really control the result of how people take your art. I made Bad Advice because I wanted people to laugh, you know what I mean, and add positivity to their day, and hopefully they can watch an episode a night, or many people watched the whole show and were mad at me the next day. They said, damn you, I started an episode at 11 a.m. and I didn't go to bed till 5 a.m. or whatever, because they couldn't stop watching it. And as much as I feel sorry for them that they didn't get any sleep, I feel good that it was good enough that they didn't want to stop watching it. So that told me, at least that one particular person, loved the show and took value from it. And that's ultimately what, the reason that I do it is to try to add value to people's lives and make them laugh and forget about their normal everyday problems. I mean, that's at the core of it all. Obviously not something you're thinking about on the daily, but when you sit back and you evaluate, why do I do this? We're all here for only so much amount of time. I feel like that's my contribution to society, is me entertain people, or to make them laugh, or on the next one, to make them cry, my next feature, or to give them some kind of emotional roller coaster that makes their lives better or reflects their own lives and they feel connected to other people. So,
you mentioned in our last interview that you didn't want to be one of these people that got stuck in a 9-to-5 job, the people that come to LA, and nothing against 9-to-5 jobs and getting insurance that's provided. That's an easy way to have a good night's sleep. But you said that you wanted to make sure that you made your projects. What about those that are independent, sort of free birds? What are the downsides of that?
It depends what kind of independent free bird you are. I mean, some of the richest people in the world are free birds and they don't follow 9 to 5. So it just depends on where you're at. Are you a waiter? Or are you a public notary? Are you what is your 9 to 5, not 9 to 5 job, but keeping you from doing a 9 to 5 job, and how much money you're making has a lot to do with that. And also how many hours are in the day. Even if you are doing a 9 to 5, you still have that, 6 hours before you go to bed, 5 hours before you go to bed. Are you spending that making films? Are you spending that writing? What are you spending your time doing? You could watch TV or movies, or you could spend time on Instagram. So nothing. You don't have to be, you don't have to not do a 9 to 5 to do this. I know plenty of people that do have 9 to 5s and still do filmmaking or acting or these things. And usually their 9 to 5 is supporting their dream to make films or to act or whatever, write, a lot of them, yeah.
Well, where do you think most independent filmmakers get stuck when they say, no, I'm not going to be in a cubicle, or whatever the 9 to 5 is, or it could be 3 to 11. It might not be a day shift, it might be, mid shift or something. Where do you think some of these independent filmmakers get stuck? Maybe they have their day open.
I think independent filmmakers get stuck by thinking they need other people. I mean, you do need a lot of people, but you don't necessarily need the studio system to make a movie. You need them to distribute it, but not necessarily nowadays. You have Tubi, you have Crackle, you have Pluto, you have Amazon Prime, you have all these outlets now that are allowing independent film on their platforms. That might change, it might not always be that way. You can't get on those platforms independently usually, but through our distribution company, you can get on those platforms. So there are ways out there to do it. I feel the biggest mistake is some people kind of sit on their stuff. They get really frustrated. They put really a lot of pressure on themselves that their first feature is going to be big, but it's your first film. Why would you think it's going to be big in a way? You have so much to learn on your first film. I laughed at our last interview because WALLY Got Wasted, I said in the interview, people can't see what you learn on your film. So they don't know how good you are now. They're judging you by the last thing that you did. And people actually in the comments were like, well, they criticized my film, WALLY Got Wasted. And it was like, well, yeah, I just talked about how much stuff I learned on my first feature. That was the whole point of the discussion, was that people learn from doing, and then you have to take that knowledge and do something else and make it better. If you don't go do it again, then you don't have the knowledge that you got from the first one, from making it, falling on your face sometimes, or getting an audience to criticize what you did so that you go, oh, people didn't like that, or people didn't laugh there in that section, or whatever, whatever you learned. That's why I'm always curious to talk to filmmakers about, well, what did you learn? What would you not do again? What turned out fantastic? Their trials and tribulations, because each individual is going to find something different that they learned. So
Right, and I'm just in compliment to you. Your first film is funny and has high production value. I watched it on Tubi last night. So, and I've seen other first films that are maybe more rough around the edges. So I would say, hats off to you on that one. I wouldn't say it looks totally like a first film.
Well, that was kind of the point. WALLY Got Wasted was my first feature, and it's on Tubi and Pluto and Crackle, a lot of platforms. We made it for only 70 grand. And so, and the funny part is now 70 grand is less money, but also you could do a lot more with 70 grand when it comes to certain technology has changed. So WALLY Got Wasted has clubs, it has, grocery stores, it has house parties, there's a lot of production value in it, fast food restaurants, a cave, I think it's funny, I saw a film recently and he had no transitions. It was room to room, and it literally, he never went outside. And I just don't understand fully some filmmakers, because I'm like, if you don't have it, go get it, get drone shots. There's a lot of easy ways to kind of make your movie breathe, But we were really lucky on WALLY Got Wasted. I got very lucky on that whole project. My whole crew was from Teen Wolf, the TV show, and they came over and they worked on WALLY Got Wasted. And I managed to, like I said, so many people helped me. People gave us 5-ton grip truck for a very, very good price. RE Alexa, all these things came, and so many people supported me. I'm just very grateful. But that's part of making films, and that's part of being a filmmaker, is convincing people to believe in you and your vision. That's probably maybe the biggest part, because ultimately, if you really want to get to the studio system, you have to make them believe that you're the right person to tell this story and to believe in your story. So you have to be doing that on a smaller scale, and that's a big part of the job, is communicating and making people believe in your vision. Because if they come with passion and everybody comes with their artistic ability to make it better, it's going to be a much better project, for sure.
And the studio system is something that you still want, or are you happy continually doing your films? Because they are your films, they have your humor, you get to be in them, you get to cast the people you want to cast.
I'm sure there's pluses and minuses to everything. I will say my next feature, I was offered a lot more money to not act in it. They wanted me to direct, They offered me a $2.2 million budget for the film if I didn't act as the lead role. And I basically was like, I can't do that. So maybe I'll sell out more afterwards, but I was like, my next feature is called Attachment Theory. It's an action drama film that I'm shooting now. And I wanted to, and I'm the sole lead in the movie, and I wanted to at least attempt that, because all the TV show's a 4-person lead. Bad Advice is a 4-person lead. WALLY Got Wasted's a 3-person lead. I've never led a movie by myself, and I wanted to prove I could do it, as well as learn and have that journey. So I didn't want to deprive myself of that. And I knew if I didn't do it now, I might not ever do it. So,
okay. Sorry to interrupt, but I was wondering, did you do the math on that and think, well, I could take that money and then make another one?
They didn't offer me $2.2 million to put in my pocket. They offered it to make the movie. I told my mom that. She's like, well, take the money. I'm like, Mom, I don't get to keep the $2.2 million. How much money would I make on that? Maybe $100,000 if I'm lucky. And $100,000 is not going to change my life in LA.
That is true, in LA, right. The ending of that is very true. Yeah,
yes.
LA.
Yes. So, but, the show was 100% me. The show, Bad Advice, is on Tubi right now. People can watch it on Tubi. And we shot 54 days, 100 locations, 100 actors. And, I mean, you can't get more independent than Bad Advice, because it was COVID. Nobody was doing anything. And so I think we did a good job of keeping masks, for the most part, out of the show. But nobody was doing anything. So it was like, we have to make things small. The smaller, the better. Because the bigger we have it, the more chance someone's going to get COVID, or, So the fact that COVID was going on was partial the reason I did the show, I wrote it. So I wrote Bad Advice. I wrote 2 episodes in 2012. And then finally COVID happened, and I was like, I better start writing again. So the end of 2020, I started writing, and I wrote the whole rest of the season. And then I wrote it in January I wrote like each episode in 3 days. I was writing 10 pages a day, which is an insane schedule. But I was by myself and I was just like, I'm gonna get this done. I'd outline one day and then write 3 days. But I had all these ideas. I've been saving ideas for like 10 years. I wanted to do that show. And I talked about it the last time we were interviewed. I don't know if you remember. But then I wrote it in January, and then by March we were shooting. So it was still heavily COVID. Nobody was really doing anything. And because we kept it small, we got into a lot of places for free too. Like restaurants and stuff. I'd come in and they were only doing takeout and the whole place is empty. You know, there were so many places that were empty because people couldn't have anybody in their business. And I was like, hey, do you think we could come in here and shoot and film? And a lot of places let us in, probably because they were dead. Nobody was in there. You know, and I don't remember if people were allowed to come in or they just weren't coming in, but it seemed to help us a lot. So 100 locations is not an easy task to find, but we found them. I found them all the locations, so.